Hey everybody, this is the My ETV Media podcast, and today we're talking about pre-E3 stuff. We're going to talk about expectations, comparisons, general E3. I'm Max Romano. I'm here with
Donald.
Ahmad.
Christophe.
All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is what everyone cares about most, is the E3 press conferences.
It's the only thing that matters.
Pretty much, yeah. So in order of like what has been building up the most expectation, and this isn't like a fanboy thing like Microsoft over Sony, it's just because Microsoft has been the closest to this date to reveal information with Xbox One. We're going to talk about Microsoft. So what have you guys thought about past Microsoft presentations?
Kinect heavy. Way too Kinect heavy. But if you go off of what we've seen in the most recent Xbox reveal, you know that it's going to be all about Kinect. That is, I mean, they're all in. It's not like they're going to show up at E3 and be like, oh, we're just joking. Kinect's not a big deal. Never mind.
I kind of have the feeling that after that initial reveal where it was all Kinect and television centric, I think they might actually try and put the focus on the games this time around. That being said, I think there will be like 1 or 2 Kinect games, but I think the majority of it will be on traditional gaming experiences like Forza.
I'm going to even go ahead and say 3 or 4 Kinect games.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it'll be that heavy.
You know, that's not out of the question. I mean, because they are like Kinect it's what they're sinking everything into, and I think that
it's mandatory in the it's part of the console.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So chances are every
ignore.
game will have some type of like, even if it's just like saying commands or whatever, some sort of Kinect functionality.
They have a lot of questions to answer as well. Like there's a lot of things that we just don't know about how the system works. Like I know the Kinect needs to be plugged in, but can I plug it in and put it inside like a cupboard? Because like to me, privacy is an issue. Like I don't want that eye staring at me the whole time. I mean, I even tape up my laptop webcam because I don't want to be seen.
Yeah, I think people are making too big of a deal out of the Kinect thing. It's like what are you doing on your couch that like you're so why do people seeing? You know, like.
Well, there's more to it than that because they have patented technology to monitor how many people are there in the room for copyright protection.
Yeah, but I mean, even like, is that really such a big issue?
Well, I mean, it's just weird.
I just don't want to be monitored. That's the thing. I've bought this thing. It's my console. It's sitting in my house. I don't want it monitoring me. I don't want you to know what I'm doing.
Like with all the monitoring that's already going, like like your Facebook, your Twitter, with all the data that's already being sucked out of everything you do and sent to companies to analyze and better sell you things. You like that?
But the thing is, I'm not paying for Facebook. I'm not paying for Twitter. I understand that. That is a service I've signed up for, knowing full well that that's what's coming with it. When I buy a gaming console, I am buying a gaming console for my own house. I don't buy Facebook for my house. I know Facebook is a public thing. It's out there. The information you put out there, it's out there. So you're stupid if you put out stuff that you probably shouldn't be putting out on Facebook. But when you have a system at home that's constantly monitoring you, it knows your emotions, it knows how you're feeling, it can gauge where your eyes are looking, that's way too creepy for me. It's like I want to be able to put that thing away. When I want to use it, I will use it. I like the stuff how I can say Xbox on, which I think is a great feature, or Xbox off, which could have some problems if you have multiple consoles and stuff. But besides that, I don't want it monitoring me constantly. I just find that super creepy.
Which is an interesting point. I mean, if you're paying for something, you deserve to like have it work under your conditions, right? I mean, it's a two-way agreement between you and the company that you're buying this box from. So I guess the only recourse for people who really have a problem with this monitoring thing is to not buy an Xbox. And it sounds like people are significantly worried about that. So this is probably going to take a chunk out of Microsoft sales, and rightly so, because it is intrusive. I mean, I don't care about it so much, but there's people who will, and they have a right to in my opinion, they should care about being monitored.
Tell me, if you leave it on, is it always on?
It's one of those things, well, like, I don't know, as electronics are progressing, there's less of a turn this off type of mentality.
Microsoft's going to have to clarify that because, I mean, there's a lot of rumors out there saying it's always on or it's not, and then it scares people. I mean, you want to cut those rumors out and then clarify the matter.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what bothers me more is that they haven't fully addressed the question of used games and how games are going to work at all on your system.
I think that's a thing where people are complaining too much. Let's look at Steam. It's one of the greatest game distribution platforms out there. No used games. There is a gifting system. I mean, the system works because it works.
But Steam isn't on an open network. That's why I think one of the reasons why it works so well is because Steam works off of an open system. It works off of a PC. And a PC you can modify and do what you will with. On an Xbox, it's a closed system. So your access to like the way that those games are going to work, if it does work like Steam, is going to be really limited. So I guess my biggest problem with Xbox One is that it's doing a lot of things that I've been doing since I had my PS2 with my like Media Center PC. It's giving you a lot of options to stream media and content and integrate this one box into your media network. And for people who aren't as tech savvy as I might be and don't know how to like set up a PC and stream stuff without devices like this, I mean, it might be a good thing, but for everyone who does know how to do that, they're going to look at all this extra functionality and the cost that goes with it, and the fact that you're being recorded, and the fact that the system is closed, and the fact that the game store is probably going to have horrendous pricing, and they're just going to hate it. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, I mean, that goes back to like the questions that they have to answer. Again, about the Media Hub, like they very much showed off what it's going to look like in the US. We're in Canada. It's going to be different for us. And there was a picture on Reddit, I think it was, where someone said, this is what my Xbox One dashboard is going to look like. And it had a whole bunch of things X'd out, like Hulu, Netflix. It's like, we don't get that in my country. Like, we don't have that. So it was like a European country. I forgot which one it was. But everything was X'd out. And he's like, this is what it's going to look like. And it just looked like the video game and like one other thing. And that's the kind of question they need to answer. Like, sure, in the States, this might work, but how is this going to work? Like, do I plug in my own cable through the Xbox to use that? Or is Xbox providing some kind of umbrella? Because if you look back, they even said that this is a worldwide release. Like, at the end of the conference, or near the end of the conference, they said, this year, worldwide release. So with a worldwide release, what kind of, like, I get it, it's multimedia, but what kind of integration are we talking about? Like, all channels, like all different cable networks, will it only be specific ones? And then with that kind of thing, is the price justified? Like, what if I have a different cable network that doesn't work on there? I don't want to pay $700 for something that doesn't integrate what they say it will integrate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Christoph, do you think that this strategy is going to help Microsoft in a worldwide market? Like in Europe, do you think this is going to work in Europe?
It is very interesting. I mean, to bring a camera in your living room, I think that's the question people are, or even in your bedroom, that's the question people are going to be wondering over. And is this going to be year on A? I don't know that.
But as far as the online function goes, like with the TV and stuff, do you think that's going to work in Europe?
It will work. I mean, it's probably a bold move that Microsoft is making right now. When we look back in 10 years, we'll say, wow, how come we did without it before?
That's a fair point.
That could be it. I mean, in 10 years from now, we could be looking back and thinking, how did we live without that?
Okay, let me ask you a question. You're sitting at home, you've got friends or whatever over. Do you really want to do this in front of them? Like, no. do you want to stretch your
I think that's a good question. I think this is for like your parents. I don't think that's.
Yeah, but do your parents want to do that?
Honestly, I think they might. I've seen, like people who don't like play with video games and stuff. When they want to watch TV, like, yeah, you can buy a universal remote, but they don't want to use a video game controller. It's just so unintuitive. Not when, like, for their entire lives, they've been doing this.
Yeah, but that's fine. But then, like, I think Sony addressed that when Sony came out with that, like, that controller that also ran the Blu-ray drive. Like, I know, like, maybe 5 people bought it, but that was a thing where you literally had, like, a DVD remote controller, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Like, that works for me. I really find it, like maybe the speaking thing, even that seems kind of awkward if you have people over. It's like you're speaking to a machine. It's kind of weird. But the hand gestures, that I don't see that becoming.
But like, what are you going to use that for? Like, were you like the biggest nerd? You're like, oh, I need to multitask.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
My web browser and my video game. Because I think for most people who don't want to go like through some complicated like Harmony type remote and everything, it's going to be so much easier to just say watch TV or watch DVD. They don't want to fumble through all these menus. Like, Donald, what do you think? Like,
well, I mean, it's if you have your friends over and you're doing this, that, and the other, it kind of leaves it open for them just messing around.
Yeah, it does. But I mean,
and as well as that, if you're in the middle of a game, someone just swoops in, Xbox off.
But all that functionality, I mean, that's not really for the gamers. Like the gamers. They have controllers and stuff. That's not going to change. It's that's just like an extra function. It's not really like you have to use it.
I so agree. They're going for a bigger market. They're the gamer.
We have
Sony, and then we're happy with Sony, I guess.
All right, so an issue that we haven't really talked about yet is we're assuming that all this Xbox One stuff is going to work perfectly. And Microsoft has showed us English and Spanish, I think. What about the guy in Denmark or Sweden? Or...
You better speak Spanish or English.
But like, are we thinking that this is going to work with every language, or are you going to be the one guy whose language they didn't support for whatever reason and just be pissed? Like,
again, worldwide release. I mean, you got to remember that this is Microsoft that's behind all this, and they're a smart company. They know what they're doing, and I think I want to, even though I'm going to say I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I want to say that the Kinect 2 or the Kinect 2.0, whatever they want to call it, I feel like they've thought about these things, right? They're not dumb. It's not like they're like, oh, we forgot worldwide release. People speak Chinese. No, they know this. They've accounted for this.
Oh, Xbox One's not going to be in China. China still has those legislation against video game systems.
You're right. And I shouldn't even say Chinese. I should have said Mandarin or Cantonese. But yeah, you're right about that. But
no, it's not going to be in Mandarin or Cantonese because it's not going to be released in China at all. China has legislation against video game consoles altogether.
No, I know that. I shouldn't have said that. I should have said like French, Christophe.
But I get it. Yeah.
So they'll keep that in mind, and I'm pretty sure they'll scale it out. And I'm sure, like, I know a lot of people, and we brought it up ourselves. They're concerned about people walking in the room and be like, Xbox off and your game just shuts off. That is a concern, but I'm sure they've thought about this, right? They're not dumb. I hope. Right? They've thought this through. They're like, no, it's signed into the gamer tag. It recognizes who you are, and that's the person that controls it. I hope that's what it is. So.
Yeah, well, they have their preference. They have their conference, and then they have E3, and they're going to clarify all of it. And in between, they have a lot of people talking about it, and that's the buzz they want to create. So they're very smart marketing tool, I guess.
But they actually cancelled their post E3 conference.
Really?
Yeah, they just cancelled it, and there's no word on why or what. No reason for it, just that it's cancelled.
Maybe honestly, I think a lot of this is probably a strategy to control the conversation. And you're doing 3 things that people are going to hate. You're doing a camera that's watching you all the time. You're doing games that you have to install to the hard drive, probably like almost for no reason at all. Like it makes some sense, but in other ways it doesn't because you're using Blu-ray and there's 50 gigs on the Blu-ray. Like you don't need to install the games. And you're going to lock out used games in some capacity. And if you can direct the conversation towards this camera thing, which when it comes down to it, like, are people going to get more pissed off about the camera or the fact that now when they buy a used game, they have to like pay more money?
Not on the used game thing, but the game installs, I get the game installs. If what it allows me to do is I can switch directly from my TV and go Xbox, play Crackdown 3, and it switches right to where I was. No loading, no going into the menu, pressing start, going to continue. Done that 1,000 times. Yeah, it's a small thing, but I think that would enhance my experience. But if it just picks
But how big is the hard drive going to be in Xbox One?
I don't know.
Okay, so let's assume it's a 500 gig hard drive, which is like stretching because I doubt they're going to give you that much value, right? Okay, so a Blu-ray is 50 gigs. A lot of games on PS3 that are on those 50 gig Blu-rays fill 50 gigs. If you're going to install that entire game to the point where you can play it without the disc, that's 50 gigs. Plus movies and stuff, like how many games are you going to be able to install? Like 3 or 4 at a time?
Yeah, but aren't they doing something with like the cloud saves where the install and like the save goes to a cloud and then the actual box only takes a certain amount, like it takes the DRM function or it's like the ownership function of it.
That gets us into this whole talk
about
the
DRM.
That's
another like
to install my games. Does it have to be always on? Am I basically paying for on live? Like
it's like it's every 24-hour thing, so everyone.
But if it's on the cloud, how are you going to access something on the fly? If you're not online.
Yeah, but that's exactly the thing. So they say it's not DRM, but it is.